Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point Podcast. Everybody's doing well. We are here on a Thursday, just a few hours away from Thursday Night Football kickoff between the Denver Broncos and Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, battle of two 3-3 teams. And tonight we're going to talk about a lot of things. We'll talk about that, but we got a resident Patriots fan on the podcast following a tough loss to the Dallas Cowboys last Sunday. I have to get his thoughts on the 2-4 start after the first 6 weeks. Benny, thanks for coming back as always, but how do you feel about your Patriots 6 games into the 2021-2022 season?
Just feels like you bombarded me here. Every time I come on, you send me like the checklist of what we're going to talk about, but conveniently you left off the Pats Dallas game. So a bit blindsided here, but that's all right. We'll power through. It was a tough game. It's another game. This one, I don't think in terms of deserving to win, by no means did we deserve to win that game. Dallas was the better team, and they had the Dak fumble at the goal line, and a lot of things go against them. But it's a game, we deserving or not, we easily could have won the game, which comes down to it. And man, I love Bill and I love Josh McDaniels and everything they've done, but some of the play calling and some of the moves that they're it's frustrating to watch as a fan, especially, you can point to a couple things throughout the game where they should have maybe gone for it fourth and short or whatever, but the overtime was painful, especially when the defense is just giving up. It's like chunk play after chunk play. Like, you punt Dallas the football, they're going to get a field goal. Like, it wasn't right. Everybody saw that coming. So you have it 3rd and 3. You've been married to the run all game, and it's been pretty effective all game. Run it twice. I think you're gonna get 3 yards if you run it twice. But anyway, it was a frustrating loss. But I don't know, sort of where we're at in Patriot land right now. It's not as bright as years prior.
Yeah, I've talked about this a few times this week, and I'd love to get your take on it. I disagreed with Bill Belichick's decision to kick the field goal against the Bucs with rain and wind at 56-yard field goal. I would have went for it on that play, just myself. And then in overtime on the 4th and 3, I totally agree with you. Giving them the ball back, I don't care where they got it. They could have got it at their own 1. They're going to score points on that drive. I think Bill is honestly hindering this team a lot, and you could really not say that for a long period of time for the Patriots, obviously, during their dynasty.
No, I as much as I hate to say it, I kind of agree with you. Like, I'll never say anything too bad about Bill. He's given me too many good moments in my life, and I love the guy to death. But yeah, and a lot of it, people are putting on the offensive play calling and Josh McDaniels and all that. But at the end of the day, if Bill doesn't like what he's seeing, he's a head coach. He can be like, hey, Josh, maybe let's mix something up a little bit here. And it just doesn't seem like they're doing that. And you mentioned the kicking against Tampa. I kind of agree with you. I'm a little bit blinded by actually seeing the result of the kick. Right. And folk had the distance on it. So that kind of blinds me a little bit. Like, hey, maybe it wasn't the worst idea in the world just because he did have the distance there. It wasn't like he came up short and missed it by a mile. But yeah, it is. I kind of agree with what you said there in terms of Bills maybe holding them back a little bit, which is something that we've never really said.
Yeah, the one bright spot, and I think you mentioned McDaniels, I don't think he wants people to know if Mac Jones is any good at being a quarterback or not. But from the things I've seen, I think you guys got a quarterback of the future. I personally really like him. I don't know if he'll be better than Trevor Lawrence, because I think Trevor Lawrence has taken some really good strides in the last couple of weeks. But I like Mac Jones. I think he can be a solid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, he's shown absolutely nothing to say otherwise. I love his leadership. He looks like he has a good presence in the huddle and a good presence in the pocket too when he's playing. So he's done nothing to show that he can't be a good quarterback in this league. But like you said, the handcuffs it feels like they're still on him a bit. And maybe it is just rookie quarterback and the team maybe just isn't that good around him. And I think that's true that they aren't that good around him in most spots. But no, I like him. And I think the future's bright for him. So it is one bright spot, at least.
You got the Jets again this weekend. Confidence meter, you're going to get a win this weekend. 0 to 100.
90. maybe that's a bit high, but I mean, the Jets at the end of the day, they're still Jets, and show me otherwise. I'm just going to continue to believe that no matter what they're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they beat the Titans out of nowhere, but that seems like more and more of an aberration. But yeah, I think your Patriots still have a chance to make the playoffs. I mean, obviously they need to get some wins down the stretch here, but we'll see. We'll see how that works. Tonight, Broncos versus Browns. Broncos have lost 3 in a row. The Browns have lost 2 straight to 2 tough opponents in the Chargers and the Cardinals. But no Baker Mayfield tonight for the Browns. No Jedrick Wills. No Conklin at right tackle. Both no running backs. Possibly no Odell Beckham Jr. What are your expectations for Case tonight at quarterback for the Browns?
I don't know if there's been a game all year or will be a game all year where I've had less of a feel of what on earth is going to take place tonight. I have no clue. Like Case, as far as backup QBs go, I think Case would probably be towards the top of the list, honestly.
Yeah.
I know him and Stefanski, they work together in Minnesota, so at least they're somewhat familiar with each other from the past. So I mean, I want to say he can go out there and look somewhat good. At least Jarvis Landry is back, so that's one good thing for Cleveland. He has one weapon out there, so like it wouldn't surprise me if he went out there and looked good. And you'll see all the overreactions tomorrow, like, oh, should Keenum be starting over Mayfield and all that stupid stuff. That wouldn't surprise me, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he goes out there and throws like a pick 6 on his first pass, and everyone's like, wow, this Cleveland team is obviously really banged up and they're just not that good. So I have no idea what to expect tonight.
Yeah, it's a weird one because, like I said, the Broncos are kind of beat up too. And Teddy Bridgewater, I still haven't heard. It hasn't been announced if he's starting yet. It was 50-50 yesterday. He's got a problem with his foot, but yeah, the Browns are beaten and battered. And yeah, I kind of feel like the Browns will win tonight just because I thought the Broncos would be better. And I made a $20 bet that they would finish higher in the standings than the Raiders, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So joke's on me. But yeah, I've already heard this week that Case Keenum will win, and then people will start talking about him being the new QB1. Like Benny, that's so ridiculous to me. Like I'm not a Baker Mayfield apologist, but he's a better damn quarterback than Case Keenum. Like, come on, like that. I can't even believe that's going to be a storyline.
Oh, for sure. And 100% if the Browns do win, it will be like, I mean, at the end of the day, Stephen A and the boys, they gotta grab those headlines. So it wouldn't shock me at all. And like I said, I don't hate Case Keenum as a backup, but yeah, Baker's an absolute warrior out there. Guy's been playing with one shoulder for who knows how long now. And like, yeah, I'm not the biggest Baker fan either, kind of like you, but he's solid. I'm not gonna say he's like top tier quarterback in the league by any means, but he's good enough to win you games. And I think, yeah, I don't know. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Speaking of Baker, I guess before I get to the bigger question, who do you think tonight's game is more important for to actually get the win?
I would say Cleveland because I think they're still more of a contender than Denver. I think Denver at this point, I mean, if they win tonight, they're still in the playoff race. And even if they lose, they are, but I still don't believe much in them. Their 3 wins are pretty against some bad teams. So
Giants,
I don't buy
Jags,
much.
and Jets.
Yeah. I don't buy a whole lot of stock into those. And I think if Cleveland doesn't win tonight, then it could, who knows how long Baker's out, who knows how long all those guys are out. So I think things could start spiraling down if Cleveland doesn't win today.
Yeah, I think I agree. I looked at the Broncos schedule. It's easier than Cleveland's for sure, even though they're in a tough division with the Chargers and obviously KC, and even Las Vegas is a competent team as well. But I mean, the Browns still have to play Baltimore twice. They got to play Cincinnati twice. And Cincinnati's not the joke that they were, years past. Like, I agree. I think Cleveland, even with a win tonight, they're going to be up what creek to even get into the playoffs, because it's a tough road ahead. It's even with Baker back, he's not going to be 100% the rest of the year. I mean, that shoulder is not getting better without surgery. And, the team isn't playing that well to begin with right now.
Yeah, for sure. That division, I mean, it's always a dogfight, but traditionally you think it's just Ravens, Steelers, right? Battling out for first place or whatever. But now all four teams are legit. Well, Pittsburgh, I don't know how high I am on them, but they're still a competent team and a good team that can win on any given week. So that division's an absolute dogfight, like you said. You lose one game, all of a sudden you're looking up at everybody else, and the mountain just gets that much higher.
Yeah. Baker being hurt, this is like a contract year for him, because we've seen Josh Allen get his money. We've seen, guys like Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott. I assume Lamar will be getting it pretty damn soon the way he's playing. But just back up the Brinks truck for him. I think this season's so important for Baker, not only for his contract, but just his future. Like, it might not be in Cleveland. Like, we see how quick people give up on quarterbacks and on players. And I really think how this season plays out could have a really big impact on his long-term future in the NFL.
I agree. And I feel bad for the way it's played out with the injuries and all of this. So especially with the expectations for Cleveland coming into the year. I mean, a lot of people had them, I think, probably winning the AFC, or at least in the AFC championship game. I mean, this was supposed to be their year to finally break out and show that they're for real. And I mean, things haven't gone to plan yet, of course, but I mean, they're still over half the season to turn things around. So I'm kind of rooting for Baker in Cleveland. I mean, I have just all the losing they have in the past, a little bit of a soft spot for them. So, but in terms of Baker's future, you're right. I mean, Cleveland could be looking elsewhere. I don't know what the free agent class is looking like coming up, but if there are some names that intrigue the eyes and that they think are the trade market, I'm not sure, but if they think they can make an upgrade, then it wouldn't shock me to see that happen.
Yeah, there's always the Aaron Rodgers rumor that'll be out there until the end of time that he's leaving, and Adam Schefter.
Do you really see him in Cleveland though? I just can't picture that at all.
I know, but he's playing in Green Bay. It's not exactly lap of luxury up there.
It's a good point.
He likes the outdoor stadiums, I guess. He owns Soldier Field, maybe the Dog Pound. I don't know.
That's true.
But yeah, I kind of feel for him too, and there's no, I agree with you that he's not an elite quarterback by any means, but it's so hard to pay a guy less than the guy who got, you pay more than what the guy before you got. So he's going to be the same. He's going to be like, well, I want $1 more than Josh Allen. And I think that's a stupid way to do business, because there are guys that are going to get paid. I mean, look at Jared Goff, look at Carson Wentz. Those two situations just worked out so great for both of those organizations. I think there's got to be, in the financial system, there's got to be a break, or just a medium, place in the middle. Would you say Baker's like a Ryan Tannehill? I think that's kind of obviously they're different because Tannehill's more athletic, but I think those two making the same amount of money in that ballpark makes sense to me.
Oh, that's a great comparison. I think the contract talks, or the negotiations, how they go, will show sort of how committed to Cleveland and how much he really wants to be a Brown. Because if he is demanding that top money, like you said, everybody wants more than the last guy. I think if Baker is saying that right away, then I don't know how committed he really is to Cleveland. Because like you said, he's just not. That is sort of the going rate of quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks, but he's not worth that much money. And if you do pay him that much money, I think it would be a mistake. So I actually really like that Tannehill comparison. I think that's a good sort of starting ground for the contract talks.
Yeah, and their teams are built similar. Obviously, Cleveland with their two running backs, and then you got King Henry in Tennessee. Before we move up this game, always talked about is Odell Beckham Jr. And injury-prone guy. He dropped the 4th down pass on Sunday. That was right in the hands. But do you think the Browns should move him?
Yeah, but I don't know. Does anybody want him at this point? It's such a weird weird dynamic with him. Like that guy was electric. He was probably arguably the best receiver in the game at one point. Like I don't know what's really happened to him. Like I know he's getting older and all that. And I just don't know. He's kind of like, I don't know if he's disengaged. He's not interested anymore. I know he's a big, maybe a bit of a head case at times. So it's tough to say, but it's clearly not working out in Cleveland. I think that's sort of the bottom line. And I think at this point, it might even be beneficial for both sides to move on. But again, I don't know. I know somebody will obviously scoop him up and maybe he has a little bit of juice left, but I just don't know where this is going.
Yeah, and it's kind of like he's kind of like Russell Westbrook to me, where if he goes on a team and he's not the number one, he's going to be petulant about it. And I guess we'll see if I'm wrong about that Russell Westbrook this year. But to this point, I think that's been Russell Westbrook's career. I heard this week on ESPN, maybe Green Bay.
That'd be interesting because, yeah, I think if you give him like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, somebody like that can maybe whip him into shape a little bit. But I mean, I feel like from the outside, Aaron Rodgers would love that. He's always complaining about how he needs some weapons through the draft and whatnot. And that would be quite the combo with Adams and Odell out wide. That's interesting. I kind of like that, but
that
again,
or maybe Kansas City. That's just off the top of my head. Like they got Josh Gordon, okay, but Kansas City, they got obviously they need defensive players more than they need Odell Beckham Jr., but he would be another threat to put alongside Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, just give them all the old washed receivers.
Yeah. They love to running backs.
I forgot they had. Yeah, it was Le'Veon Bell signed with KC. That was last year, right? Yeah, they just love. They're kind of like the New England Patriots used to be, I guess, in a way, just snatching up old kind of washed guys, Ocho Cinco and all those people. So
yeah, they still got Brandon Bolden. He's speaking of washed.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we get to the games this weekend, I thought we'd go and we pick our top 5 teams from the AFC and NFC. I thought that'd be fun to go through them both, kind of give our reasoning as to why. I'll start with you. We'll go with the AFC. You can rank your 5-1.
AFC. Okay, we'll go 5-1. Should have written this down. I picked them, but so in 5, I have we just kind of talked about them a little bit briefly. Tennessee Titans. I don't see them moving up, and no matter what they do, maybe if they beat Kansas City, but they just are what they are at this point to me. They'll make the playoffs, but I don't see them as a threat to anybody. I'm kind of high. I think I'm higher on Tannehill than a lot of people are. I like what he can do in the play action game, but obviously he's nothing without King Henry. So I got them in the 5th spot, but like I said, I really don't see them being able to move up from that. They're kind of just locked in there forever, it feels like. In 4th, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. They showed they're maybe a bit flawed on the weekend. They didn't look good on Sunday. The running game in particular was virtually non-existent. So I think if they have the wrong matchup, which Baltimore clearly is, based on that, then maybe they're a little bit flawed. But anyways, I still like what they can do. I still like Herbert, and I think he'll bounce back fine. Them in the 4th spot. The 3, I'll be interested to hear how you feel about this. I still have the Kansas City Chiefs. I still feel as long as Patty Mahomes is back there, I still love them. That defense, they're bad. They're bad. They aren't good, that's for sure. So I'm very curious to see how that continues to play out, and they could slide they don't look good. So we'll see. Anyways, they're still in 3 for now. This weekend, I think, can change that very fast. And 2, I have Baltimore, the Ravens. Lamar, week 1, I kind of had written them off. I didn't think they were that good, but been nothing but great since. I think Lamar is an absolute stud, and he's trying to make another case for a run at the MVP again. And then I still have Buffalo at number 1. I know they lost to Tennessee on a tough play there at the end from Josh Allen on that QB sneak, but I still think they're the most complete team top to bottom. That offense is just, they buzz down the field. They look really good. And the defense I still think is very good too. So they're still top of the list in the AFC for me.
Yeah, no surprise. We have this 5 same teams, but in different order. So no big surprise there. I agree with a lot of what you said, and I'll go through my list, how I got there. 5, I have the Chargers. For similar reasons as you. Last weekend really spooked me, and maybe it tells me more about Baltimore, which I'll get to. But I do like Herbert. I thought the wins against Vegas was really impressive. That game where they closed it out late. Obviously, they lost the Cowboys, but that looks like a better loss as the weeks go by because that team's really good. But I do think their defense has some holes. Herbert clearly can be had if you design the right plays, but I do think the Chargers are not, the Chargers of 10 years with Phillip Rivers, where what can go wrong will go wrong. 4, I have Kansas City, and I'm not giving up on them by any means. I think they can. I think it's gonna be tough for them to win their division. I think they still can. However, Vegas is good. The Chargers are good, and that defense, it's going to be hard to make it better. I mean, we know NFL trade deadlines, Benny. There's only so much you can do. You're picking up wash guys basically to add to your team. Whitney Merciless and guy Jalen Smith, like the Green Bay Packers have been doing lately. But you still got Mahomes, still have Kelsey, you still got the Honey Badger back there, but you might only have the Honey Badger back there. Maybe find another guy that can get in coverage, not Daniel Sorensen, and maybe you'll find a solution to your problems there.
He's brutal. He's finally benched. I play in a weird fantasy league where I have individual defensive players, and he was on the squad, and he was still racking up tackles, but that's almost not a good thing for his position. Like, he should be breaking up passes and not having to tackle guys. But yeah, he finally got benched last week, so that's the start for them.
he was struggling mightily.
Yeah.
3, I have the Titans, and the teams will flip depending on this weekend, which we'll get to. Tennessee versus Kansas City, and I like Tannehill as well. I'm like you. I'm high on him. Obviously, Adam Gase ruins any quarterback he touches. Thankfully, he's not at Alabama, and it's Bill O'Brien with Bryce Young. But King Henry, good luck stopping him. He's got 260 more rush yards than any other running back in the NFL, which is nuts. He might be the most unique back that's ever played, Benny, because he's so big. Like he can run like a gazelle, but he is so fun to watch because he's such a unicorn.
That 75-yarder around that run he broke off against Buffalo, that was beautiful to watch. I mean, as soon as he breaks through the line is in the secondary, he's gone, but the guy can, like you said, he's such a freak of nature. He's like a ginormous out there, but he's running past guys like it's nothing. Like he's a special person. It's crazy.
Yeah, I still don't love their defense, but I like the quarterback sneak stop because Josh Allen might have slipped, but Jeffrey Simmons also just blew that play up. So they got some good players. 2, I have the Bills. Love Josh Allen. It doesn't change I love their, Emmanuel Sanders. What an ad. He's been great. Dawson Knox has taken that next step as a very competent, potentially elite tight end if he continues. You still got Stephon Diggs, old Measly Beasley is still good. And I like these 1, 2, I think are both really good. Like Jordan Poyer on the back end, Micah Hyde still can play. I feel bad for him when he had to try to tackle King Henry in one of those plays. That just is not fair. I think he's like 5'10" and 190 pounds.
Is that the one where you just sort of dove at him? And
yeah,
it was actually it worked.
He kind of fell back and he's like, just run me over. And they got some good Greg Rousseau out of Miami is a good ad on the D line too. But 1, I got Baltimore. And like you, after week 1, I'm like, they have the Chiefs week 2. Probably going to be 0-2. It's going to be downhill. But the first 5 games, it was all about Lamar. Everything. But last week against the Chargers, I think, Benny, was the first game I saw a team They didn't win just because of Lamar. That team dominated the game all the way in the defensive end, and they're getting, they have washed running backs. We talked about Devontae Freeman, Le'Veon Bell, Latavia, all cuts, and these guys are breaking off rush yards. And if Hollywood Brown could only catch a damn touchdown, Lamar would be leading. He'd be up there with Tom Brady. He's dropped, I think, 4 touchdowns this season. But I like Baltimore, and I hope they can add another receiver before the trade deadline.
Yeah, for sure. Baltimore, they're proven that they're absolutely for real. That defense, I sort of touched on it earlier when talking about the Chargers. I mean, they shut down that run game. Like the Chargers, Eckler's obviously a decent back, so it's not like they were shutting down nobody. So they looked fantastic, and I think they're absolutely for real. I can't dispute the ranking too much there.
Yeah, I think the game of the week, and I'm surprised this isn't like a Sunday night game or at least like a 4:25 your time. Obviously, our shitty time zone 5:30. Tennessee, Kansas City, like that's a 1:00 game. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule today, and the Sunday nighter kind of shocked me a little bit. I'm like, it's Indy, San Fran, like, okay.
What's with Indy getting all these primetime games?
That's a good question. It's not like they were really expected to be fantastic either, so it's kind of weird. But hey,
yeah, I guess
we'll still watch it.
So it doesn't really matter what it is. Like
exactly.
We're watching Denver, Cleveland tonight. I know, like. So they got us hooked, this damn NFL. They know what the fuck they're doing. But yeah, Baltimore, Buffalo's on a bye. They'll be fine. They're I think they off the bye, they get another pretty decent, half decent. I think they get Miami off the bye. That's basically a bye week there.
I feel like Baltimore or Buffalo too, like they're going to reach a point here where they almost fall asleep for a few games. I still think they're going to rattle off a bunch of wins, but I mean, I think, let's be real, the division is pretty much locked down at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe the next 3 or 4 weeks or so, they look not quite as sharp as we're accustomed to seeing, but I still think they're a great team.
Yeah. And I guess what would be interesting is you get the 17 games this year, but that 1 game bye becomes more and more important as they add games to the schedule, because to have a week of rest, I think that's I think that's invaluable to a team. And maybe it's like a Lamar even Josh Allen, they both run a lot, obviously, as a quarterback. I think locking up that number 1 spot with the bye will be important for either one of these teams.
Yeah, that's a good point. I almost forgot too, that there is only that 1 bye slot now with the playoffs expanding. So it should be a fun race in both conferences, really, for that number 1 seed. But you're right, especially with QBs that you're running designed runs for them all the time, that bye week could be huge.
Before we get to the NFC, just with Chiefs Titans, if the Titans beat the Bills and then the Chiefs in consecutive weeks, would that put them on the map as a real contender in the AFC?
I mean, I should say yes, but I don't know what it is about it. I think it's their defense. I still really just don't have much faith in. And it's just, I feel like that we've seen this before. I mean, they made the AFC Championship game a couple years ago. But I don't know. I feel like they kind of are what they are. And I feel like the Derrick Henry, as dominant as he is, he does every once in a while, he just has games where he gets stopped. And once you stop the run and Derrick Henry, like, they don't have much, because Tannehill does rely a lot on that play action passing game. So if he doesn't have that in the back pocket, I think they're a little too one-dimensional with having to establish the run, essentially.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I want them to be a real threat, because I think that would make it so much more interesting to see them be in it all year. And I think a lot of people are now saying the Colts are back in it. I think Tennessee's better than the Colts. I mean, I like the Colts defense a hell of a lot more, but I like Tannehill more than I like Carson Wentz. That's not saying much. Carson Wentz just seems to screw it up whenever it gets to the real clutch moments here.
I think I want to say it was Pat McAfee or somebody. I saw a tweet from the Colts game on Sunday that said, for the first time in Carson Wentz's career, he took a regular sack. Like he just knew he was going to get sacked and just took it, went down instead of trying to run around the guy and force a play and fumble. Like he finally took the first sack of his career where he just let it happen, that's growing. He's growing finally.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at Brady. I mean, yeah, he looks like a soft human being when he just falls to the ground when a guy's going at him, but he's played 22 years. So clearly it works.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's smart. And sometimes like we've seen it with it was Danny Jones, like just stop trying to force stuff. You're gonna fumble it if you keep doing that.
Joe Burrow in that game where he didn't, oh my God, I thought he was injured. I'm like, no, please, no, not again. Like I really thought he was injured way worse than he was because he took a shot on that play.
He's used to taking quite a few shots.
LSU is used to the big pocket. He had a better O-line at LSU than he does in Cincinnati, either one of the first 2 years. Yeah, the Chiefs, I love Mahomes. I love Kelsey. But I don't know if it's their year, Benny, because just that defense, it's going to have to get a lot better. Like Steve Spagnuolo coached the Giants in 2007 when they won the Super Bowl. But he had Michael Strahan on that defense, which helps. But I don't think their defense has been very good. I mean, you look at analytics over the last couple of years, it just hasn't been that good. But Mahomes has just been so incredible that he's kind of overcome that deficiency.
And I hate to knock on Mahomes at all because he's still, to me, he's the best QB in the league, hands down still. Yeah. But and I've heard people talking about this, and I completely agree that it almost seems like he tries to do something special, like every play. Like he loves the no look, throwing back across his shoulder stuff. Whereas times where like, hey, you can take that check down every once in a while. You can hit that quick slant. Like you don't have to make a huge special Sports Center top 10 play every single play. And I kind of agree with that to an extent. I think, he's still fairly young in terms of career. So, he's still learning, even though he's still a beast. But at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to the defense. And they don't have to get a stop every time, but you need to get a few stops here and there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And yeah, just check it down to Edwards-Helaire or Darrell Williams or, Pringle in the backfield. Like, don't throw it across your body, to the moon. Like, just, don't get Uncle Rico every pass, so to speak. Baltimore being 1 for me, 2 for you. They're playing the Bengals this weekend. Can the Bengals make this an interesting game?
I don't think so. I was doing some reading on this game, and in the Lamar Jackson era against Cincy, they're 5-0 and just absolutely dominate the ground. I think saying this out loud, I almost feel like I misread, but they had over 400 rushing yards in one of those games. So they've just dominated. Yeah, it probably is now. But so they've just dominated Cincy on the ground. And Cincy, obviously, they're not the Cincy of the past. They're getting better. O-line, far from good, but they're maybe better than they were last year. That's not saying much, but Joe Burrow's looked good. Good to see him back healthy. Jamar Chase has looked unreal. But I think one of the biggest things for Cincinnati and their turnaround has been their defense, which is like one of the top 10 defenses, I believe. So that's been the most encouraging thing, I think, from Cincinnati's standpoint. But Lamar is a different beast. That's a different game plan that you got to bring. And I feel like Baltimore will find a way to win this one fairly easily still.
Yeah, I think so too. I trust in Lamar too much. Obviously, I think if they can use these next couple of weeks to get Rashad Bateman integrated into the offense, that'll be huge. I think he had 4 catches for 29 yards his first week, which is fine. That he didn't need any more than that. They destroyed the Chargers. But Mark, he's going to Mark Andrews. Like, that's who he trusts. And it would be nice to have that second guy that he develops rapport with, because Hollywood Brown might be able to run to the moon and back in 5 seconds. But the guy, I would not trust to throw him a deep ball, because Benny, the guy must eat a bucket of chicken before every game, because he drops touchdowns better than anybody in the NFL. Like, it's so frustrating.
Butter on the fingers for sure. And yeah, like the talent is there. Like you
Yeah.
said, you have to put yourself in a good position to drop touchdowns. So you're doing something right. But yeah, you gotta finish those plays. But yeah, Bateman, I think that's a good point. I never even thought about that, but he's sort of a different receiver type than
Mhm.
Hollywood Brown too. It brings a different element to that passing game. So yeah, no, for sure.
Do you remember John Ross the third used to play for the Bengals?
He's the guy that broke the 40 record, correct?
Yeah, like
That
he got
combine.
drafted.
Yeah,
People talked about him at the 40 and how fast he was. I think he's got like 9 career catches. Like he's with the Giants now. Like, and I'm like, that's Hollywood Brown. Like the guy can run, but he can't catch.
so true. It just goes to show too. I mean, you hear like commentators and analysts talk all the time about route running. As
Mhm.
somebody that's not like, I mean, I watch football all the time, but I don't understand completely a ton of it. But just how important route running and be able to run a good route actually is, because you can have all the speed in the world,
Yeah.
but like you said, if you can't catch or you can't run a good route, you're not going to do a whole lot in the league.
Yeah, no, great point. I mean, you look at a guy like Cooper Kupp, who comes to mind. That guy's not the fastest guy. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the strongest guy, but him and Keenan Allen are two of the best route runners in the NFL, and they're just somehow open, but they can't blow by anybody. But I mean, watching Cooper Kupp's really a gift. I think that guy is an underrated receiver, how good he is. And we'll touch on the Rams, but let's go to the NFC and we'll rank our top 5 teams from the NFC, and you can go 5-1 there as well.
Sounds good. So start with 5, got the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, offensively, they're as talented, I would say, as pretty much anybody in the league.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb has really taken another step. He's a beast, and they still got Cooper. Zeke has rejuvenated himself a little bit, I think, this year. So they look really good. I'm still not a huge believer in their defense. I think the turnover luck is going to catch up to them a little bit. They can't rely on Diggs to catch 20 interceptions every week. So I'm still a bit skeptical on their defense, but at the end of they play in the NFC beast still. So they got a cakewalk to the playoffs. So I got them 5. I got Green Bay and the Packers at 4. I mean, same story as always. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Devontae Adams. We talked about earlier, adding another receiver threat would be huge. They've been talking about that for probably 10 years now. Every year you hear about that. So I got them at 4. I got the Arizona Cardinals at 3. They're another team that I like really want to believe in them. But even that Cleveland game on the weekend, I don't know. Like you look at the box score and it looked good, but just watching it, I don't know. It felt a little sloppy to me for whatever reason. So they've won every game, so you can't knock them too much, but I still got them at 3. Tampa Bay, Brady and the boys, I got at 2. I just think they're a complete team. I mean, we saw it all last year, especially in the playoffs. That defense is still dominant when they're clicking, and Brady, it sounds like a broken record. The guy just won't give it up. He's still throwing touchdowns and still looking phenomenal up there. So and then 1, I feel like every time I come on here, I just suck off the Rams about how much I love them, but I still love the Rams, especially with Matt Stafford, and talked about Cooper Kupp. That defense is still good. So I'm still all in on the Rams, and they're still my favorite in the NFC at this point.
Yeah. Again, we had the same 5 teams, very close actually this time. Very, very close. Number 5, I have Green Bay. And Green Bay and the Cowboys, they're the one change that we have. I put Green Bay 5 just because I agree about the Cowboys defense. I love Trayvon Diggs, but eventually the NFL will figure, okay, let's just not throw the ball his way. Like, let's just maybe figure that one out. Let's just not do that. And then
just put him on a double move. That worked apparently.
Yeah, or
the pick.
Kazee, who was maybe drunk because he got a
Yeah,
DWI earlier this week. Maybe he was drunk during the game because I don't know what the hell he was doing back there.
Yeah, that was a nice little whiff.
He looked like Marcus Williams in the Minnesota Miracle there.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, I love Diggs. I think DeMarcus Lawrence coming back will help. Randy Gregory's look really good. Obviously, he needs to stay on the field. He's had some substance abuse issues, so I wish him all the best. But he killed Mac Jones on that sack. I was worried about him.
That's talk about a hard hit. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sure,
Micah
Mac felt
Parsons
one in the
has
corner.
been great as well. But I like the Cowboys offense slightly more than I do Green Bay's, because Green Bay doesn't have really a defensive player that you can say, okay, he's great. Like Jair Alexander's good, but he's still, you're like, I don't know. And Green Bay, you know what's going to be Rodgers to Devontae Adams, and they can double him, but he still gets open. He's that, you talk about route running again. He's that damn good at it, because to me, it'd be pretty simple. Let's just double him the whole game, triple him if you have to. But I want them to establish a second guy. Lazard hasn't been it yet. Rodgers never seems to trust Valdez-Scantling, probably for good reason, because he's kind of dropped the ball in big games. But maybe it's Tanyan. But yeah, do you kind of feel the same way, that it's kind of like, okay, I like Aaron Jones, I'll throw him the ball. Obviously, he'll run it. But other than that, in Devontae, he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of trust in anybody else.
Oh, it's 100% accurate. And I thought coming into this year that him and Tanyan were really going to take off, because I thought there were flashes last year. I think we saw it a bit in the playoffs too, where that connection looked real well. So I thought coming into this year that they would take off a little more, but you're right. Just he doesn't seem to trust Valdez-Scantling. I still picture him almost sort of like the Hollywood Brown you were talking about, just gets open at a lot of times, but you can't catch those deep balls. And it feels like Aaron Rodgers is very, he's a very interesting cat, to say the least. But I feel like, if he doesn't have the trust in you, he's just simply not going to throw you the ball. And that's sort of how he is. So I completely agree.
Yeah, I think one game Devontae Adams had 18 targets. Like he won't care. Like, I'll just keep throwing him the ball play after.
He's like, I believe I can fit it in a window because I'm that good, and Devontae will find a way to get open somehow.
Right. 3, I also have Arizona, which is odd for both of us because they're the only undefeated team in football. And, they've beaten good teams. Like, they've beaten Tennessee. They've beaten the Rams. They've beaten the Browns. Like, it hasn't been a pancake schedule. But there's just something there for me too. I really like what they're doing. Kyler, those little legs, he can friggin' move that little man, but he plays big. I give him a ton of credit. AJ Green looks rejuvenated. That guy is playing some ball. I like one thing I will say is JJ Watt is starting to come on. The last 2 weeks, I think he's played fantastic football. Nearly killed Baker, ripped that arm off. But he's getting to the quarterback. He always has been good at stopping the run. But I there's something for Arizona that I'm like, I don't trust yet. And maybe it's because we saw the Steelers last year, Benny, go 11-0 and then they skidded. I think Arizona's better than that. But you look at their division and you see the Rams, and you worry about them being very good long term.
Yeah, I forgot about Pittsburgh last year. That was a weird one because every week people are like, oh, Pittsburgh's not good. We all know they're not good, but somehow they keep winning. Like, I don't know how this is happening. Yeah. And I agree that Arizona is a lot better than Pittsburgh was, but it's sort of, you're right. It does have that dynamic a little bit where you go in every week like, okay, is this the week they finally show their true colors? Like, they just keep pushing it off. And I don't know, maybe it's Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know. He's too good of a looking guy to be a good coach. I don't know. So
McVay hasn't won a Super Bowl yet either. The good looking guys haven't won any yet. You mentioned
the analytics for you.
Another big game. Arizona plays Houston, so you can pencil in for 7-0. But a week from tonight, they play Green Bay.
That's a good little Thursday nighter. Yeah. No kidding. Where is that?
Let me look that up. If it's in Lambeau, I think Green Bay will definitely be favored. But that game it's in Arizona.
On the spot there.
It's in Arizona. Yeah.
That's a good Thursday night treat. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good Thursday night. Followed by Jets Colts the next week.
That's more like it. That makes more sense.
That's the game we want to see. Jets Colts.
Better be a color rush. Give me a color
Yeah.
rush at least.
Yeah, yeah. Green Bay, Washington football team, and then get through this week because there's a lot of teams, a lot of good teams are on buys this week. So some games you're like, okay, this is gonna be a blowout. But yeah, that's a Thursday nighter that I will be couching for. Yeah, I can't wait for that one. Two, like you, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Bucks, you can't. I think their defense will only get better throughout the year. It did last year. The last couple of weeks, it really came on. It's banged up right now, but I think they'll get better. In a perfect world, Richard Sherman is not playing come the end of the year. He just didn't look ready to play to me. But you still got Tampa Tom. You got Mike Evans. Antonio Brown looks rejuvenated. Gronk will have rib cartilage back in his body by then. And they're just loaded top to bottom. I mean, their offense, I don't think Brady could ask for a better receiving core right now.
Oh, absolutely. Antonio Brown, like you said, he looks like one of the top receivers in the league at this point. I mean, he looks really good, and the weapons he has on offense, it's just good. The only question the running back still, I mean, Leonard Fournette's looked okay this year, but it's still, I think, a bit of a question mark and a weakness of the team. But hey, if Brady can keep throwing it like he is, might not matter.
Let me throw something by you for the Bucks. Banged up running back right now, playing for a bad team. What if the Bucks, there's other teams that would probably be interested, went out and tried to acquire Saquon Barkley?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, I think you got to preface that with, can Saquon be healthy enough to make the trade? But yeah, no, I don't hate that. I'm surprised we haven't been hearing a little more of that, because Saquon doesn't seem to be working out too well in New York, and almost seems like he needs a change of scenery to kind of get his career going. So yeah, that's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to give him a second contract. I don't think Tampa Bay would either, but they would probably take him for the stretch run obviously to hope to win a Super Bowl, and then he can try to get pennies on the dollar somewhere else. Because I mean, we know running backs, you get a few injuries, you're not getting much. Like Todd Gurley was great until he wasn't.
You shouldn't pay them much, even if they are good. I think we've learned that a bit too. So.
Yeah, unless you're Derrick Henry.
Right. Yeah.
And like you, I got to kiss up to Matt Stafford. Number one, I have the Rams. Obviously, they lost Arizona, which is counterintuitive, Arizona being 3. But however, I just really like this team. I don't see a weakness. They got the best defensive player in the NFL. They have the best corner in the NFL, in my opinion, Jalen Ramsey. I like Kenny Young. I like Leonard Floyd. Stafford's playing really good. Cooper Kupp, I think, is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Deshaun Jackson's sneaky when you want to use him. Just run 75 yards, one play a game, and make it work. And Darrell Henderson's good as well. I mean, their running game isn't great, but they have a lot of great players elsewhere that could, Tutu Atwell is a guy out of Louisville that they could use in the run game. Use some creative plays to use him. So I think the Rams they don't really have a weakness top to bottom.
Oh, I mean, like I said, every time I come on here, I feel like even going back to last year, I just talk about how much I love the Rams, and I still love them. So
they got the Lions this weekend. It's revenge game of sorts on two sides, because we have Stafford playing his old team in Detroit, Jared Goff playing his old team in the Rams. McVay came out this week and said, it's kind of my fault with Jared Goff. I might have not communicated the best. I wasn't that, I wasn't that great with him. Who do you think this game means more to, Stafford or Goff, to win it?
That's an interesting question. I feel like, how do I want to say this? Goff might be more motivated. Like it might be a bigger sort of revenge game for him in terms of wanting to get back at McVay and there's just the entire organization. But I think like as a whole, like it might mean a little more to Stafford just because he spent so much time in Detroit. I know they sucked like pretty much the entire time he was there, but I mean, like he meant a lot to that fan base. I just think back to that clip where he basically, he separated his shoulder or something like that, but he went right back into the game and threw a game-winning touchdown. So like, he's an absolute beast, and I think the fans have so much respect for him that it'll be a big moment for Stafford and that. But I think Goff will have a little more motivation in terms of wanting that revenge in the game, a little more nastiness on Goff's side compared to Stafford, just because of the way it ended for him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Jared Goff's an interesting position because, like you said, they haven't won a game yet, and he's playing his old team, the Rams. We both have number 1 in the NFC, so we both know the Rams are going to crush them. But to me, the more interesting thing is Jared Goff may get benched after this loss, because I thought it was going to happen this week, because he's got Dan Campbell called him out after last week's game. And if you're 0-7, a lot of it falls on the quarterback. And I kind of worry, Benny, about Jared Goff's career, because does he become like a Tyrod Taylor, like a guy who is like a good backup quarterback for a long period of time? Like maybe he becomes your guy Blaine Gabbert in Tampa Bay, where because we've seen it as a starter, 2 different locations. I mean, a lot of teams need quarterbacks, but I don't know if this guy's going to have the juice from any team to say, okay, starting next year, wherever he signs, he's the week 1 starter definitively.
Oh, that's completely where I see his path taking him. Unfortunately, like, I feel bad. He seems like a good enough guy, like nothing against him, but it really does feel like his path is sort of destined to be a backup QB. I don't think Detroit, in an ideal world, they draft a QB. Whether there's a QB they want coming into this draft, I don't know. But I don't think they see him as sort of the franchise QB. And I don't think they ever did when they made the trade. They're probably hoping maybe he'll have some fire lit under him, and who knows, he does ball out and live up to that first overall pick potential. But at this point, yeah, it's tough to really see that happening, and it's unfortunate, especially when he was drafted first overall like he was. So, I mean, in terms of backup QB, like, he could be a solid option. He's still good enough, I think, to win some games on a good team. But that's the thing, like, he's got to be on a good team if they're going to win games. Like we've seen in Detroit, obviously the whole team stinks, but he's not helping them at all. And it does kind of suck for him in a way. He's going into the big revenge game, in the back of his head, he's probably like, yeah, we have no chance, but hey, even if I ball out, they'll still probably get killed. So it's a tough situation for him, but
yeah, he got Stafford coming back, in the midst of an MVP run, potentially going to be 6-1, and then you leave the stadium and you're 0-7 with Jared Goff. That's a tough one. Dan Campbell, we've seen him cry. You mentioned biting off kneecaps at the first press conference. Do you like this guy, or do you think he's kind of a hero?
I don't mind him. I do think a lot of the stuff is a bit kind of phony, and it almost feels a bit like a college coach type thing, where it doesn't work the same in the NFL. But it's tough not to root for a guy like that. Like, I'll never straight up hate him. Like, it seems like he genuinely loves his guys and will do anything and stick up for them and do anything. So in that sense, like, I do like him and I'll always root for him. But I do agree, some of the crying after a week 5 loss when your team sucks, I'm like, that's a little much, I think, there, Dan. But because what are you just gonna cry after every week? You can't really do that. So I don't mind him, but like you said, it does seem a little hero-ish. Yeah,
you should have looked in the mirror and saw what team that you signed up, to coach. I'm gonna go through the schedule right now, and you'll be the predictor. You can let me know when they're gonna win their first game. How's that?
We've got to throw one win in there.
Yeah,
everyone thought it was gonna come last weekend. I think that was a pretty popular
34-11 drubbing. Oof. Okay, Rams this week.
That's no.
Eagles next week at home.
That's an intriguing one. I hate to end your little segment here so early, but I feel like there's not going to be many better options to throw a W, and I got to throw at least one. So I'm going to do it. I'll go W.
You're gonna go. You're guaranteeing it.
I'm not guaranteeing it at all, but like I said, I feel like I need to throw one W in there, and I don't know if are there any better options in
I'll
your
say
mind down
they
the
got a
road.
bye week in week 9, then they go to Pittsburgh.
Not in Pittsburgh. I
Not
don't
in
see that
Pittsburgh.
happening.
Okay. They go to Cleveland.
No, Cleveland should be a little more healthy by then.
Then, of course, everybody wants this game. They play the Bears on Thanksgiving.
Oh, it's a classic. Detroit, 1 o'clock Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's nobody gets home in time for that one.
Nah, it's a loss, unfortunately. I feel
Why
like
is
they
that
never
on
win on Thanksgiving.
My God, that's a garbage.
Lions and Cowboys every year.
At least this year the Cowboys are good. They got the Raiders.
Yeah, that's true.
They got the Raiders. That's not bad.
That's not bad. What is a Sunday nighter, does you say?
Bills Saints.
Saints are a weird team. I almost forget about them.
Yeah.
Forgot they existed for a bit.
Then the Lions got the Vikings at home.
The Vikings are a weird team where I wouldn't be shocked if Detroit found a way to win.
Yeah, me either.
On paper, I would say that's still a loss.
We won't go through the rest. They got the Broncos, Cardinals, Falcons.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they'll get 2 or 3 wins. I think out of the schedule.
I think Philly. That's the one I'm gonna go with.
Okay, we're gonna remember that one next time we come.
Yeah.
You hammered the Lions against the Eagles next week, everybody. Let's look at some. I'm gonna look at some lines here for this week before we do some game pick type stuff. But looking at the lines, let's see here. Bengals at Ravens. What do you think the line is for that game?
I think I'm cheating. I'm pretty sure I saw it earlier. Is it Ravens by 6?
6.5.
Okay. Yeah. Which is a little. Is it
That's
in
a bit
Baltimore?
high.
It must be in Baltimore.
It's in Baltimore.
It feels a bit high, but for divisional games, but based on what we've seen from Baltimore, especially last week, that they're a good team. So
Washington at the Packers.
In Green Bay. Ooh,
Yeah.
that'd be Green Bay 8.5.
Close 7.5. Would you take Green Bay money line?
Money line, yeah, for sure. Take Green Bay against the spread. That's another tough one. Probably lean towards Green Bay.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be over a touchdown. Like if it was 6.5, I'd feel really good about Green Bay, but that extra point.
Chiefs at Titans.
Chiefs at Titans. Ooh, that's a tough one in Tennessee. It's got to be close. I would say I feel like Vegas still loves the Chiefs, so I might go Chiefs -2.
Chiefs 5.5.
Wow, that's way higher than I would have expected on the road.
Yeah, that's a spread. That'd be one I'd sprinkle maybe.
I feel it's like a Tennessee one. Yeah, I agree.
Backdoor cover. Jets Patriots.
Pats 5.5
7.
-5.5. Okay, I guess yeah. The Jets are the Jets. So
Lions Rams.
this one's got to be double digits at least. I feel like
It is. Yeah.
12,
15.
12, 15. Wow. That's. I would still probably lean Rams.
Yeah, I still would.
Stafford's gonna get a bigger ovation than Goff is.
This is surprising. Bears at Bucks.
Tampa -6.
12.5.
Wow, that is way bigger than I would expect.
I take the Bears to cover that.
Yeah, the Bears, like by no means do I think they're a contender, but yeah, they're solid. I feel like.
And then the game that I agree with you, Sunday nighter, it's kind of a sleeper, but it's an important game, however, for both teams. Both teams are 3-3. They're both obviously the 49ers in a really tough division. But Colts at Niners, what do you think the line is there?
Is Jimmy G playing? Do we know if he's playing?
He practiced today, so it sounds like he's going to be back in time.
I like him better than I do Trey Lance at this point, especially.
Yeah.
I would say San Fran by field goal. 3.
Yeah, San Fran -4. So yeah, you're
Okay,
right there.
around there.
But who do you think the game's more important for, the Colts or the Niners?
That's a tough one. I almost want to say equally. I feel like it's a game where if either team, the team that loses, they almost takes them out of the division. But I might lean towards maybe a little more important to San Fran, just because their division is so much stronger and they have a ton of divisional games left.
Yeah.
Whereas the Colts can beat up on a couple garbage teams in their division. So I think it's bigger for San Fran, but like you said, that's a pretty important game for both teams.
Yeah, I like Jimmy G. I thought the Trey Lance argument to come in this early was stupid because we saw him play one game and he's not ready. He ran the ball 16 times. I mean, you're not going to survive in the NFL if you run like your running back 16 times is your average. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I would say the 49ers, because I think, like, I agree, the Colts can make up games. And they can beat Houston twice. They can beat Jacksonville twice. I think they play Tennessee in the next few weeks, might even be next week. So that's another big game down. Yeah, they do. They play the Tennessee at home next week. So that's already a big game on their schedule. I want to ask you this. Cam Newton was with your Patriots. He's come out and said he's gotten vaccinated. He wants to play. Would, if you're a team like, I heard Seattle talk to him, would you be interested in him coming in with Russell Wilson on the shelf?
No, based on what I saw from Cam last year, and I would not be interested in him at all, even in the backup role. And I feel bad about saying that. I mean, he seems like an all right guy. But man, like, he couldn't throw the ball 10 yards. He was spiking it into guys' feet every time he threw the ball. Like, it was just painful to watch. So and maybe I'm a bit shaded by just being a New England fan and seeing what I saw, but I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, if there's a long-term injury, I might, but Russell Wilson should be back. And I think it's a specific scenario where it would work. I think Dallas, maybe it would work because I think him and Dak would get along good, and that wouldn't be an issue. And it would be an upgrade over Cooper Rush or wherever the hell else they got backup quarterbacking down there.
DiNucci still there?
Yeah, Bad, aka Bad, Benjamin Anthony DiNucci. No, good stuff tonight. Before we wrap, I wanted out your Blue Jackets are 2-1. They got the Islanders tonight. You tuning into to that game?
I'll check it out until they're down 3-0 after the first period. Then I'll turn it off. I feel like don't let the 2-1 record fool you people. They are not a good hockey team, but that's all right. We're tanking for Shane Wright, and that's what the season's all about.
Yeah, good luck catching Arizona.
That's a good point. At least Buffalo, apparently they're the best team in the league. So
yeah, I didn't think they get 20 wins, and they're already a quarter of the way there. So, but
Craig Anderson,
they do this every year. They do this every year. They'll win 4 of their first 5, and then they'll lose, 50 out of 60.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
it'll get ugly real fast.
Yeah, no, Benny, always a pleasure having you on, man. It's always super fun, and we'll do this again real soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jug.
All right, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the game tonight. I'll be back tomorrow to break it all down, and we'll talk then.